in which we can align our contents to meet the needs of our students. And so this evening, as we do our analysis and our strategy, we need to be cognizant of what is it that obtains as it relates to standardized assessments. So we know that standardized assessments are done in a particular format in which this tests the level that the students should be at. So it is not just limited to a specific school, it's not just limited to a specific subject, but it is right across the board. You're testing to see how well students have grasped the content. And so we had looked at some myths and facts, wherein we said that, for some educators, they believe that it doesn't have a place in the system. There's no need for you to have standardized assessments going on. But educators have always said that we need to have standardized assessments. And the facts, they are there to support, to show that yes, indeed, we need to be having standardized assessment, because this is what judge one student, right, as opposed to another student, and it also judge a school as opposed to another school. How well are the students doing within this context? And so we do say that it has a place. Additionally, some persons say that standardized assessment, it is stressful. It makes no sense for them to do it. What's the purpose? What's the sense of doing? But yes, it has a purpose. It is important. Persons will also say that it stresses the teacher. Standardized assessment it has nowhere or place in saying that it is going to be stressing the teacher. If you know your content well enough, you will know just how to align your content to meet the needs of your students, to meet the needs of your students in gaining a pass in their exam, to meet the needs of the students aligning themselves for success. So when they move from John High School and they're going to University of the Caribbean or University of Dominica or wherever it is that the students are going, how will that student be matched against a student that is coming from another region or from another area? And so the only way to know that these students have acquired the necessary skills, the necessary information, the necessary content, and they are equipped to move on is through standardized assessment. It is going to tell you exactly where the students are and how they need to relate. So yes, it is very important. Another thing that it does for teachers, while it allows for comparison among schools, be mindful also that it is important in identifying problematic situations, problematic areas within the curriculum or the syllabus. So it will tell you that the student cannot manage persuasive writing. It will say that they're having a challenge in understanding alliteration, in understanding the digestive system, in understanding foot movement in physical education and sport or physical education. It is going to be showing you as an educator where exactly the students are failing or where the students don't understand. Now, the only drawback that I have, and I'm sure many other educators will have, and those who are knowledgeable of standardized assessment, is that by the time you receive the report from the examining body, these students have already matriculated. They have moved on in most cases. There's no going back. And so it is difficult for you to correct it then. But what it does for you educators, it helps you now to position yourself for the next term. So I realized that in the report, the students did not grasp how to the digestive system, the different parts, and how, for example, nutrients are digested, carbohydrate, for example. And so for me, the report will tell me, okay, Boswell-Lewis, based on what you teach, your name is not going to be there, they'll mark you. But it will say that, all right, students struggled to understand the concept of the digestive system, how the digestive system works when there's carbohydrate being digested. And so when I plan for my next year group that is coming up, I am now able to say, all right, they did not get this right, so let me spend some more time in this for the students. Right? And so would have covered myths and facts. And some of the feedback that I got from educators is that it is really helpful. It is helping you to understand, because some of us, for me, when I just left college and I went to, it was something that was a big deal. As a matter of fact, my first job, very, very first job, was to teach a grade 11 class. Now, I am just out of university. How do I deal with this? I am not familiar with the curriculum. I'm not familiar with the syllabus. I'm a newbie. But guess what I did, educators, and what you can do as well is to ensure that you are, you teamwork. Teamwork is important. Network building is important for you. And so when you have done this, when you have gotten this opportunity, what you now need to do is to align yourself with someone who understands more than you do, and you learn from them so you can prepare your students. But as an educator, you can't back down. You have to just keep going, keep trying, keep doing what you have to do to align your students for success. Right? Now, another thing that area that we looked at, we also looked at, while we looked at the myths and the facts and all of that, we looked at how can you now align your students for success. And this is where, educators, you have the Gen Z and the millennials who are coming in, and you have to know how to deal with these students. You have to know what is it that they love, what is it that they enjoy, and so by doing that, you are now able to reach them. So you are using different methods. So they like to use their iPods, they like to use their cell phone. Reach out to them in that way. Gamification is very important, right? And so for gamification, you are pinning your content to what the students are doing, what they love, and you tie that in and help them to utilize. If you see me just moving up and down, it's because I'm monitoring 2 devices, one for the Instagram and one for Facebook, right? And I'm pretty sure you understand how, as educators, we have to work, right? So you have to meet them at their level. If they love the game, plug it into the game so that they can learn it and they can use it. You are going to find, like for the boys, they may love to DJ, they love to rap, they love to do a reggae beat or so on. Pin that into your content. Whatever they love, take it and tie it to the content, and you will find that they will do much better. They'll do better at what they're doing because you are pinning the content to what they love, right? It's like children. They love to watch the television. So you notice what a lot of these companies are doing. They're having their videos, their little nice interactive videos and stuff, and they're putting it to the TV. So when your child goes on, the child loves to watch the TV, you just plug it into a content-based area where they're learning about how to read, how to pronounce ABC, how to do these little sentences and so on, and they are learning. The same thing applies for your students in the classroom. Whatever they love, you need to be using educators to help your students. This is how you align them for success. And may I remind you also, educators, that while you're aligning the content to meet the students for success, you as well need to align the content that you have to meet the students. So it means that you may have to be doing some additional reading. You may have to be doing additional networking. You may have to even be doing research, because I usually say to educators, and it is a known fact, a textbook takes a while to be written. So the educator may start writing the book in 2000, but guess what? The book is not published until 2012. That was a 12-year space. Between that 12 years, a lot of information has been plugged in. A lot of things has changed. And so you need to change the content. So you can't use the textbook slavishly as it is, because sometimes information there is old. So you will not need to be going to do your reading, your additional reading, your additional research, your networking with persons who know more than you do in order to benefit, in order for your students to benefit from it. And by doing that, you are also benefiting. So when you know, the popular saying says, you know, that you cannot pour from an empty cup. What's in my cup stays in my cup, right? That is not how it goes with education. What is in your cup, educators, must be poured out into your students' cup as well. So you can't be giving them water and you don't have water to give them, or you only have a little quarter cup of water. Your cup must be filled all the way up to the brim in order for you to pour out into your students. So the same thing applies to your lesson planning. The same thing applies to your assessment. The same thing applies to your content, that you have to have something inside that is pouring up, filling up and pouring over, that you are now going to pour out into your students to help them as you align them for success. Mark you, educators, it is not going to come in a one go. Right? I've shared on my Instagram page, my Facebook page, that for me, it took me many years to master my craft, and I have not even yet mastered it as fully as how I should, but I'm getting there. And so that is why I am using this avenue to empower you educators as well. A part of the problem that we have, a lot of educators, they go to university or teachers college, they get a diploma and they're satisfied with a diploma. You cannot be teaching at upper school level and you're teaching with a diploma. You have to go and equip yourself additionally, right? You have a bachelor's, you went to university and got a bachelor's, and you're satisfied with that. Oh, that's fine, that's okay. No, you have to keep going. So even if you stop at your bachelor's, there are some short courses that come up from time to time. Log on to them and get it done. That you don't even have to pay money for. And even if you have to invest, because it is helping you and it is helping your students. It is boosting your credential as an educator, as the teacher in the classroom, as the reflective practitioner, so that your students can become successful. I remember when I went back and I did my master's, and the first course that I did was called Pedagogical Foundation. And trust me, that opened up a light bulb in my head. I started to see things differently. And I'm going to be sharing this one thing with you because it all relates to standardized assessment as well, because you are preparing your students for exam and you need to understand the psyche of students. Teachers, did you know, educators, did you know that it is okay for your students to eat in class? But guess what you have to do? You have to be able to monitor them. Yes, and it is not difficult, because guess what? The child cannot learn on empty stomach, or if they don't have the brain food, they're not going to be processing the information. And for me, when I was going to teachers college, that's a no-no in classrooms. First thing when you go into some classroom, you see the sign put up, no eating in the classroom. Educators, we have to get to this stage where some things we have to unlearn and relearn. And when you find that some things are old, just unlearn them. Put in new things. You have to develop the system and the process that is going to help your students. I'm not saying that it works at all levels, but especially the high school level that we are focusing on, you have to take some reaction. You have to be able to look into what you're doing and see how best you can rearrange to provide that niche for your students to help them to align themselves, right? So you have to be doing the building on yourself so that you can build your student. Do not settle, educators. Do not settle for flops. Do not settle for pieces of crumbs when you can get the entire bread. If there's not a seat at the table, bring your folding chair, buy your own chair and put it at the table. Have the conversations, because you're aligning your students for success and you're positioning yourself also as the reflective practitioner, as the successful educator. Now, finally, in week 3, I shared with you how it is that after you have looked at the myths and the facts and you unravel those myths and you are securing yourself in the facts and you have aligned your content, or you're learning how to align your content to meet the standardized assessment, you now have to look at how can you help your students to become successful. So I shared with you mnemonics, how you can teach your students to shorten content, how you can teach them to do the skimming and taking out the meat out of what they need and throwing away the scraps, right? So you have to teach them these ways. You have to teach them mindfulness, how it is that they speak to themselves, positivity. When you go into the exam, what are the coping skills that you need? So you're going into the exam, there's a question that you don't understand. Calm down, breathe, think about it. It's not coming, move on to something else. Take it in strides. Look at the points that are there. So you see a question that is worth 2 marks, all right? Don't stress yourself if you don't know it. Move on to something else. It may come back to you. A question that is worth 10 marks, spend time in it. Make sure you're doing the outlining, the discussion, whatever you need to do, make sure you're doing that. And also, educators, you have to use the language of the examination with the students. So you can't be teaching upper school students, preparing them for standardized assessment, or even primary school, and you're not using the term with them. So, for example, in CSEC, differentiate, outline, you can't be going to them in exam with just only list in your little set assessment that you're doing with them or in class. You're teaching them only list, state. So when they go to the exam room and they see outline, like, what is this? They are so confused, they don't know what to do because teacher has not familiarized them with the language. You must know the language, educators, and you must speak the language in the classroom, and you must educate your students on the language. Get them familiar with it. When I do, for example, an assessment, whether it is a 6 weeks or if I give even assignments, or even if it is end of year or end of term, I go directly to the CSEC papers and I pull out what is there. I may have to fix it a little bit to meet what I would have done with them, but I pull directly from there and I give it to them. So I expose them to it. So when they go into the exam, they're not frightened. And I teach them what the term means. What does it mean to outline? What does it mean to discuss? It's not just that you're listing 1, 2, 3, 4. There must be some discussion, some thought process going beside what you're doing so you can get your full marks. All right? So all of that is tied in. You also have to ensure that you are doing marathons with your students. You are preparing them from the get-go. So most of the syllabus begins at the grade 10 level. Right? So from grade 10, you have to be practicing them. You have to be giving them the past papers. You have to be going over the content with them. So that when they get to grade 11, they are not swamped. If it is one thing that I hate to see, in my opinion, in the education system, is like a month or 2 months before the exam, every subject is having a marathon. Everybody, the student, everyone, they're swamped with marathons, marathon after marathon. Where were these all along? These should be done from grade 10. So you're building them from grade 10 up. You are not just doing this in grade 11 and crowding the mind. You are doing it so it is going in stages. And when you do it according to the content that you teach your students. So if you teach them about the digestive system, go into the past papers from over the years or the whatever you have, right? And you must also be sharing these past papers with your students. Don't hide the knowledge from them. Give it to them and let them use it, right? So you go over and you pull out all the questions about digestive system. And you plug it in and you give it to them so that they are practicing themselves with it. So that when it gets to them doing the standardized assessment, it becomes easy and it is less stressful and it is not something that is going to cause them to be frightened. The only time the students get frightened, educators, and it becomes stressful for them is when they are not prepared. But the child who is adequately prepared will have no need for that. And the teacher who knows the content and is giving it to the students, there's no need for you to be stressful. There's no need for you to get upbeat about it because you have been doing it all along. So just to address a few of the questions that were asked of me during this series is, how do you know? How is it that your students are able to manage standardized assessment? It is easy. As I said, it is in stages from grade 10 right up. That you are doing this consistently with them over the 2-year period. And then it's even better because if you have a 6th form program, grade 10 to 11 builds on what they get in grade 12 and 13, and it makes it interesting and fun for them. Learning becomes easy. Another thing that was asked, another question that was asked, how about schools wherein the syllabus is taught from grade 7? Wow, that is even easier, nicer, better for the student. Why? Because it is in bits that you're giving this to the students. So it's not just overnight that you just get up and just hurriedly doing something with them. So for example, you have like biology, you have some science subjects that from grade 7 you can go in and pull out little pieces, little aspects of the syllabus, and you're giving it to the student because it builds up into what you're doing. So the syllabus is there not all to themselves, whatever they get from 7 to 9, it should be built on in grade 10 to 11. All right, and so it is working. But what I do understand is that there are some subjects that you have to, it's gradual, and not some, all the subjects, they are gradual. So from grade 7 up, you are preparing the students' minds. And that is why you find that some students, when they get to grade 9, they can do a subject because it has been built in, even though there may be additional classes to help them, but because the content is consistent right across the board, it helps them. All right, and so we have to position ourselves, educators. We have to go there and we have to ensure that whatever we're doing it to the best of our ability. At the end of the day, your conscience should be clear that I have done my best for my students. If they fail, let it be on their part that they did not do something, but don't let it be that it is because you did not do something. Let it be on their part, but not on your part. You'd have gone above and beyond to ensure that you're preparing your students. And so I know this is round about the time in which we look at standardized assessments. CSEC is coming up. There are students who are leaving from grade 11 and they're preparing themselves, or they have already started preparing themselves, for those who want to go to universities overseas, that they're doing their SAT and the different entrance level exams to go into these universities overseas. It is the time now, and these tips will help your students. Teach them about timetabling. When you get home in the evening, what do? Read over the content that was given to you. So there's additional reading that they are doing. Ensure that you give them the additional reading to do as well. So when they go home, they're not just at home not doing anything, but they are timetabling themselves and preparing themselves for the exams. Educators, I want to thank you so much for logging on and staying here with Strategic Educational Consultancy Services, where we just looked at our analysis Sunday, or discussion that should have been done on Sunday, but because of health issues regarding my family, I was unable to take on the live at that time. And I'm sure you understand that in this race called life, that there are things that are going to come up. But do you bow under the pressure? Sometimes you may have to take a bow, but you rise again. Right? And so we just looked at our analysis, our strategy points from Strategy Sunday, and our analysis Thursday, where we are now doing a discussion on how it is that we look at standardized assessment. What is it that we feed into? What is it that we do to help our students to be prepared for standardized assessment? And so, coming up as of Sunday, we're going to be looking at alternative assessments. So if we're looking at the standardized, how about the alternative, and how can we utilize it? Until then, see you. Take care. Remember, Strategic Educational Consultancy Services on a mission to empower you educators so that you can align your students for success. Thank you so much.